Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Rochester. For over 150 years, we have gathered here on the ancestral lands of the Dakota people, striving to be a church of open minds and loving hearts, celebrating many sources of wisdom and many spiritual paths. Your faith, your doubts, your questions, your hopes for our world, and your identity are welcome here. Today, we are grateful to be gathering online across the distance and hoping to resume an option for in-person attendance again soon. We'll send an update in the next couple of days with plans for the next few weeks for how we hope to do that. So stay in touch or contact the office with questions. This month, our monthly justice partner has been Unrestrict Minnesota, working to protect and expand access to abortion and reproductive health care in Minnesota. Half of our collection for the month will go to their work. You can give online at uurochmn.org/give. Thank you for your generosity on this last Sunday for the collection for this organization. A few quick notes about church life here. If you're interested in participating in local political caucuses and missed the forum recently and would like to know more about how to participate, you can send me a message or church member Gus Braga to learn more or get connections for links or other information, or see the forum posted on our website as well. Send us a note if you'd like to participate in the political caucus process locally. And join us for a special mid-year board update this Wednesday evening at 6:30 p.m. to hear updates from your leaders about the future of our building and governance and other topics about the life of our community and where we are at as a congregation. This Wednesday on Zoom at 6:30, and anytime after that. You can see it on our website starting probably on Thursday. So please tune in for that. We hope to see you there. So wherever you find yourself this morning, take a breath. Ground yourself in the moment in gratitude for the day, for this time together. And in the words of our minister in the 1870s, the Reverend Eliza Tupper Wilkes, may our faith in humanity and our message of hope and good cheer light our way. It's good to be together.
For our chalice lighting, the words of Thich Nhat Hanh, blaming never helps. When you plant lettuce, if it does not grow, you don't blame the lettuce. You look into the reasons it is not doing well. It may need fertilizer or more water or less sun. You never blame the lettuce. Yet if we have problems with our friends or our family, we blame the other person. But if we know how to take care of them, they will grow well, like lettuce. Blaming has no positive effect at all, nor does trying to persuade using reason and arguments. That is my experience. No blame, no reasoning, no argument, just understanding. If you understand and you show that you understand, you can love and the situation will change.
There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in that love. There is a love a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. There is a love holding me. There is a love
Just over a week ago, the world-lost Buddhist monk, poet, teacher, and author Thich Nhat Hanh. Today, during our Time for All Ages, we're going to pay tribute to him, and I will lead you through his meditation, A Handful of Quiet. Happiness in Four Pebbles by Thich Nhat Hanh. Take a moment to center yourself. Find a comfortable position. Maybe you want to close your eyes. But imagine that you have 4 pebbles. One represents a flower, one a mountain, one calm water, and one space, or the air all around us. Let's begin. Breathing in, I see myself as a flower, a human flower. Breathing out, I am beautiful just as I am, and I feel very fresh. In breathe flower, out breathe fresh. Breathing in, I see myself as a mountain. Breathing out, I feel solid. Nothing can move or distract me. In breathe mountain, out breathe solid. Breathing in, I see myself as still water, a calm, clear lake in and around me. Breathing out, I reflect things just as they are, inside and around me. In breathe, still water. Out breathe, reflecting. Breathing in, I see myself as the big blue sky with lots of space in and around me. Breathing out, I feel very free and at ease. In breathe space, out breathe free. Take another deep breath. Now exhale. Be like the flower, the mountain, the water, and the air.
I can't remember the name of the conference city or the name of the hotel lobby bar where I joined my friend for a late afternoon glass of wine. But even after all these decades, my memory of our discussion is clear. My friend Estelle arrived agitated and ready to resign from a prestigious committee. As I tried to discover what had caused her distress, she kept telling me I would not understand. I, of course, argued I would. Finally, she said, I am tired of being responsible for representing an entire race of people. And she had been right. I didn't understand. Even when serving as the sole female on an otherwise all-male committee, no one ever thought I spoke for all women. But Estelle was constantly expected to speak for all people of color. As a talented Black woman, often the only person of color in a sea of white, she was put in that untenable situation. Expected to know the needs of an entire community as if the rich complexity of life was a simple monolith and she held a key. As UUs, we espouse an active search for truth and meaning. We acknowledge the potential that a spark of inspiration that could alter our path might just as easily come from an unexpected source, a poem, a movie, a book, as from a deeply held tradition. I feel the challenge of living with intention and widening my circle is not to fall into the misguided complacency that created such stress for my friend. While I can revel in the lyrical quality of an Amanda Gorman poem, agonize over the brutal reality of Black life in white America as portrayed in a cinematic adaptation of an August Wilson play, even get caught up in a whodunit following Walter Mosley's infamous detective Easy Rawlins through the grime and the glitter of LA, I must remember, whether it is fiction or fact, that those descriptions are just a brief glimpse into lives very different than my own. The challenge of living with intention and widening my circle is to remember to celebrate the uniqueness of each person's life, to recognize that each difference in upbringing, family food tradition, or the myriad of diverse life choices that make a whole person is to recognize the opportunities for personal growth that with each book I read, movie I see, or story that I hear, I only hold a very small thread in a rich tapestry of another's experience. A prayer by Reverend Eric Walker Wickstrom offers instruction for capturing just such a thread. In his poem, The Purpose of This Community is to Help Its People Grow, he says, if you are who you were, if the person next to you is who he or she was, if none of us has changed since the day we came here, we have failed. The purpose of this community, of any church, temple, zendo, mosque, is to help its people grow. We do this through encounters with the unknown, in ourselves, in one another, in the other, whoever that might be for us, however hard that might be, because these encounters have many gifts to offer. So as we gather this morning, not who you were, but who you could be, so may we all.
Good morning. It is good to be with you. I invite you to settle in here as we create a place of communal caring and connection. Be enriched by the presence of each other and draw yourself closer into the heart of love at this time of service and reflection. In this time together, we ask that our minds be open, our hearts welcoming, our arms embracing. Here we honor all who support us in this caring, loving, and all-inclusive ministry. We send gratitude to Ronice Donovan, serving as our caring coordinator for the last 2 weeks, arranging care for our members and friends in need. Julie Gilkinson will take over tomorrow for the next 2, and we thank her for that. The members of our caring committee are wonderful examples of our compassionate community, holding us up as we go through challenging and happy times. This year has taken a lot out of us. It's taken a lot from us. If during this time of increasing needs in our lives you are experiencing challenges, we encourage you to reach out for support and help. Many of us may need additional care, whether it be personal pastoral care or other assistance, and we encourage you to reach out to Reverend Luke or myself with that request. As our UUs have been doing for over 150 years, we are continuing to adjust to an ever-changing world and ways of doing things. Through this time of adjustment, we ask for hope and patience, understanding and acceptance, and a renewed commitment of service to those in our lives, church, and community. May the faith in the Spirit of life, love for the community of earth, and love for the light in each other be ours now and in all the days to come.
I invite you to take a deep breath. Breathe deep the breath of life. Feel below you the earth and its ancient turning. Above you the sky, and beyond that the stars shining with their ancient light, holding you in this moment, this breath between. Know that in this house you are named and you are known as beloved, as sacred. I invite you into this time of prayer, this time of meditation, first by sharing silence together. Spirit of life, source of love, God of many names and beyond all naming. Sometimes the love that is holding us seems to be only held by the strength of our own shaky hands and hearts. It can be easy to feel and think we are traveling our path alone, more distant and more uncertain surely than we would have hoped for after so many months. When each little reprieve and move toward healing seems to begin, it seems there is something equally or even more concerning that arrives, a new variant or old prejudices or hatreds that take new forms, reminder of our planet's or our nation's ill health. The life of the Spirit calls to us in those moments to lean toward not some false optimism or a deflection of reality, but the truth of both and. That there is brokenness, yes. There are things to be concerned about. And there is beauty and love. There is also joy and laughter and hope and resilience. That we are held not only by the larger eternal love that holds all things, but our life, our soul, is held by one another in small acts of kindness or courageous acts of compassion, held by the gifts of art and of music, held by communal resilience and creativity, held by one another's simple persistence to get up each day, hard as it may seem sometimes, or easy as it might feel at times, to pay attention to the world, to our lives, just enough to be able to say thank you for a sunrise, for a story, for a friend, for the invitation to experience beauty and to offer whatever gifts we have in love and service, for a world that is worth our attention, worth our praise, and worth our love. We hold in our hearts this day all those who suffer in mind, in body, or spirit. I invite you to bring the names you're holding in your own heart this day in joy or in sorrow, celebration or concern, and silently or aloud now in this time to speak their names. For all the names spoken, unspoken, may we all be held in love and in grace. These words of meditation come from a Buddhist monk and teacher and activist living until this last week at the age of 95, Thich Nhat Hanh. He writes, "With mindfulness, you can establish yourself in the present in order to touch the wonders of life that are available in each moment. Many people are alive but don't touch the miracle of being alive. So drink your tea, slowly and reverently, as if it is the axis on which the entire whole earth revolves. Slowly, evenly, without rushing toward the future. Live the actual moment. Only this moment is life." May it be so, and amen.
From Buddhist monk and activist who died this week, Thich Nhat Hanh. If you pour a handful of salt into a cup of water, the water becomes undrinkable. But if you pour the salt into a river, people can continue to draw the water to cook, wash, and drink. The river is immense, and it has the capacity to receive, embrace, and transform. When our hearts are small, our understanding and compassion are limited, and we suffer. We cannot accept or tolerate others and their shortcomings, and we demand that they change. But when our hearts expand, these things don't make us suffer anymore. We have a lot of understanding and compassion and can embrace others. We accept others as they are, and then we have the chance to transform. The second reading, At Any Moment, There Could Be a Swerve in a Different Direction, by Ellery Akers. There was a moment when shooting egrets for feathers became wrong. There was a moment when the Wilderness Act changed the lives of billions of blades of grass. I remember the moment when a river that used to catch fire turned from flammable to swimmable. A swerve smells astringent like the wind off the sea. It tastes red, the way red-hot cinnamon mints burn in your mouth. It's heavy, the way the weight of letters is heavy, arriving in sacks at the Senate. It sounds like the click of needles as hundreds of thousands of women knit pink hats. It looks like a coyote crossing the freeway to go home.
Turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. Time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time of love, a time of hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven.
Thanks, Joe. Maybe you know someone like this that is always in the lead, always moving ahead quickly, sometimes too far to stay aware of those behind them. It's a bad habit that I sometimes have on family walks or on youth trips to Boston. I'm just moving along with my long steps, and then I notice it's very quiet around me. No one's around me anymore, and I turn around, and there they are. Maybe it's my children a half block back, stuck in the snow or something. Or I turn around on the youth trip to Boston, and there they are, the youth whose parents have entrusted their care to me, barely in sight across Boston Commons. But don't worry, since I'm aware, I do keep good track of the youth, and there are many other adults around. It's important to be aware, because if you just keep on moving ahead too quick, too fast, only paying attention to your own path and speed, you lose connection with those you've left behind. And all of a sudden, you're out there way ahead, and that's when it shifts from being a leader to just being alone. Stick together is a mantra that is good for folks, including me, who move a bit too quick, to move at a common speed, a common rhythm, to find the way forward. As we focused on last week, we live in a world where beyond just personal choice, there are many obstacles, many barriers that are hard to notice that exist. Perhaps you've participated or have heard about a practice called the privilege walk. I've spoken about it some before, which even its very title is kind of a mark of privilege for able-bodied people. But in this practice, people line up in the middle of a room, and as various statements are read, you either move forward or you move back based on your own life experience. Phrases are read like, if you grew up with immediate family members in degree-required professions, move one space forward. If you did not, move one space back. Or if your family's holidays happened on scheduled social or school breaks that were common in your community. Or if you always felt comfortable with people knowing your sexual orientation. Or if you are comfortable in public alone at night. Or if you've ever been the only person of your race or ethnicity in a classroom or a workplace. Or if you or your family received inheritance money from relatives. And the questions continue, several more, around experiences related to race or class or gender, this matrix of social location markers that are experienced not always universally, but quite commonly and systematically. And the gap widens. And you wait until the end to pay attention, to look and notice around the room. And once when I participated in this, I was the furthest ahead in the entire room. And when the questions ended, I turned around, and there were the others, scattered across in the middle, and some on the far other side of the room. I could barely make out their faces anymore. A heartbreaking distance from friends and colleagues. And an added nuance, the further I moved ahead, the less people I could notice around me at all, yet I knew the entire time, no matter how far I moved, those with less privilege were watching me move farther away, though I could see nobody anymore. With that type of privilege, you can lose any awareness of the proximity of other people's experiences to your own. And it wasn't until the practice, the end of turning around, that was a starting point to understand the chasm between us. And the real work is when we begin to consider how those chasms, those gaps, might be healed or mended or abolished or reconstructed. One way in which cultures and traditions for millennia have structurally worked to lessen the distance between communities is by forming circles instead of scaffolded hierarchies. Circles are a central part of many traditions, right? Especially earth-centered and indigenous traditions of drawing a circle or casting a circle or drumming circles. They represent an equanimity in form and equality in belonging in sacred ritual. A circle can be difficult to form, but once formed, it can hold strong by sharing a connection among all those gathered. There's something important to pay attention there. critical nuances and cultural norms and understandings, as well as the reminders that circles can be difficult to form. If you think about creating something into a perfect circle with materials like wood or metal or dough if you're baking, it can be a challenge, right? It is the same in communities of people. Circles take time and effort and skill and understanding, and when we make communal circles, it takes intention and commitment, understanding each other. It takes an expansive heart, as Thich Nhat Hanh wrote about. He said, when our hearts expand, we have a lot of understanding and compassion and can embrace others. We accept others as they are, and they then have a chance to transform. Circles can be challenging at times, and it can be hard to find your way into a circle if you're not already in it. So often when we're on the inside of whatever it is, a circle of friends or colleagues or leaders within places of work or politics or church, what can feel inclusive to those already within the circle and within the center may feel like an impossible barrier to breach to those on the outside. In a gathering I was part of among Unitarian Universalist ministers, where the practice was to gather annually around tables in a circle-ish sort of shape for conversation and learning around large topics of ethics and justice and religion. Each year we take a new topic. At one of our gatherings several years ago, among this group with a long history of influential leaders in our movement, people began to openly share how intimidating it was to be in this group. As we went around the circle then in conversation, almost everyone shared how at some point, and for many it was still the case, that they felt like they were an outsider, that they hadn't ever quite reached a sense of belonging, part of the inner circle in that group. And once we got around the entire group and everybody shared, it was clear that if almost nobody felt that they fully belonged, then the structure and practices themselves needed to change, to attend to a different world and different dynamics of role and power and identity that had changed since the founding of that group decades ago. That group had to begin making a turn. It was a moment of spiritual swerving, needing to set off the straight and narrow path in every sense of the words and pay attention to the perimeters. And what at those edges, what at those borders were strong and protective and worthy, but also what was rigid, confining, restrictive, like a gate, guarding the edges, keeping some closed in and some closed out. That was several years ago, and we're still working on it. It's like when you gather around a campfire and all you can see is the bright blaze at the center. It's almost impossible to notice anything beyond the light that is cast only there. The people, the world, the stars just behind you, if you'd simply turn around and let your senses adjust. Transformation of communities, or the individual kind like Thich Nhat Hanh wrote about, takes not only intention and truth-telling and effort, it takes time for old structures to be taken down and for something else to be built. Imagine how long it takes a congregation to consider what needs to change in structures of governance or buildings or communities, to get close to 400 adults plus children and youth who, in theory, have a lot in common, how long it takes to make major change in any community context like that. As the phrase goes, church time is as slow as cold molasses sometimes. But then imagine a community then, or a city, or a country, or a world where the values are not necessarily shared. That takes time. It takes a million little moments, swerves in the path, people turning around, paying attention beyond the insular, toward an expansive, a collective heart that sticks with it. To stick with it, the work, which often includes dismantling things that aren't working, that keeps up the practice and the regular questions of how are we living our values? Where can we keep growing and changing? Because if we don't grow and change, we failed each other. for communities to work and grow and flourish and to find balance and a sense of belonging for all that are gathered, where the practices, the rituals, the routines are strong enough to offer comfort and identity and at the same time flexible and open enough to adapt and change and to engage faithfully with new ideas and experiences and perspectives. To make that happen, it takes a regular practice of spiritual swerving and turning to avoid the impact and harm that can come with too much rigidity. It takes keeping a circle open enough for many to enter, and often it takes the people within the circle to turn around, to notice what is beyond our usual awareness, to see what might be in that wide river and have enough space for one another, those we know and those we don't, to turn and turn and turn, season by season of the year, of the world, of our lives, until we come round right. In these days of lingering pandemic and languishing spirits, here as COVID seems to be echoing off these quiet walls again and along the distant, cold lines of connection, it's good to remember that there are moments, like the poet said today, where the world can wake up and something can change. You can wake up to the beauty of the world, maybe, or to the strength or soul connection that's a deep and sustaining presence to a person or a moment, to the belief that there are moments when all of the sudden we attend to something beautiful and we make some turn and we notice what is beyond our fear or our familiarity, and we realize what's in our control and what isn't, and we attune our hearts to the miracles of the common day, enough to keep open the belief that there is a love holding you, holding us, holding all. A love that sometimes will wake us up, shake us awake, and our soul like a spiritual reboot, unplug, plug back in to notice the beauty of the world. To take not for granted a privileged place, that at any moment something might show up in your path of what is familiar and cause you to swerve and find a new direction or just turn around and lead us toward whatever hope and joy and grace there might be that can hold us, for us to notice what keeps us apart, what gets in our way of flourishing. That's the spiritual practice of turning around and waking up to begin to travel more and more together. May it be so. Amen.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving, as love shows us how. Wake now my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
I invite you, wherever you are, to take a breath. Raise your hands toward the sky in gratitude for the day, or towards the earth in gratitude for that which sustains you, or on your heart for the love that holds you. And remember, there is a love holding you. And sometimes that love is just simply a piece of art or music that touches you. Sometimes it is the sky that brings you awake, and sometimes it is the moment that helps you swerve and turn in grace and transformation toward wherever the path leads next. May it be so. Amen.